It's one thing to talk about a problem and quite another to do something about it. Hello, I'm Fred Barnes, and the problem I want to talk about today is liberal media bias. Media bias is a serious problem, but it isn't hopeless. I believe there's a solution. When I say solution, I'm not just talking about alternative news sources like Fox News or the Weekly Standard where I work. I mean actually ending the deep-down liberal bias that you find at almost every level of American journalism. The kind of bias that makes it almost impossible to enact conservative ideas, to get control of government spending. The kind of bias that tells people our economy is bad, even when it's not. It's the kind of bias that makes it so difficult to wage the global war on terrorism. The kind of bias we've even seen in recent elections.
The negativity promoted by the mainstream news media has an influence. I think it has a devastating influence. Look at them. We are in the most robust period of economic growth, and yet many Americans think that we're downhill, and that's because of the media.
There have been many studies of journalists' political affiliations that all find that they vote Democratic and the plurality are liberal, even when most journalists say that they are middle of the road.
Liberal and faulty and false reporting on the economy, which in some cases go hand in hand, change public perception about the economy, and they can change policy.
They start from flawed premises. There are reports, for instance, on the CBS Evening News, Eye on America, where they will highlight a specific societal ill. And they float the problem with the assumption that the government is the proper way to respond to the problem.
There actually was a time back in the 1980s during the Reagan presidency when I thought liberal media bias would improve and gradually disappear. Boy, was I wrong. Of course, things are better now than they were. As I said earlier, we now have alternatives, but the fact remains liberals still dominate the news. The influence of major newspapers like the New York Times and the Washington Post is overwhelming. As many as 26 million people will watch the Big Three network newscast tonight, but the highest rated program on the Fox News channel will get less than 2 million viewers.
Everyone in the newsroom is liberal, so they think they're mainstream. They would be quite insulted if I said you're a liberal. They'd say, I'm not a liberal, I'm mainstream.
Columbia is generally regarded as the top journalism school, graduate school in the United States. During my time there, I knew out of about 250 students, I knew one other conservative. I knew many, many students who were decidedly not conservative.
Our study surveyed major media journalists, asked them what they believed in, found that most of them supported liberal causes, voted for Democratic presidents. At that point, journalists say, it doesn't matter. We may be liberal, we may be Democrats, but we're professionals. Our argument was nobody is professional enough to get rid of all the impressions of a lifetime.
I think that you see several things with the standard media. One is ignorance. Two is a particular agenda. And then three is just arrogance. I think that many of them, they think that they're better than the ordinary person. And they think that they're wiser than the ordinary person. And they think that they've been ordained to impose their views on ordinary people.
Polls of the Washington Press Corps asking who they voted for in 2004 show that nearly 9 out of 10 voted for liberal candidates. And it's not just at a few of the major newspapers. Other polls show this same lopsided liberal majority at newspapers all across the country. Today's liberal media elites are overwhelmingly pro-big government, pro-high tax, pro-regulation, and skeptical of our war against terrorists. Liberal media bias is more than an irritant. It poses a grave threat to America's future. In confronting the problem of media bias, it's important to understand how our mainstream media got so biased and what we can do about it.
The left is in charge of American media today. I think that when you had this radicalization of American politics that occurred during the 1960s and the early 70s, Vietnam War, that period, where did those people go? They were primarily college students. A large number of them went into the universities, and that's why we have university bias today. A large number of them went into the media, and that's why you have press bias today. They're taking their anti-American views straight into the media.
The problem right now is a lack of intellectual diversity. So you need to get good conservative journalists into the newsroom, not to tilt the news in a conservative direction, but to create an intellectual atmosphere that makes the news more fair and balanced.
To some extent, we have ourselves to blame, because the truth is, we haven't, as a movement, trained and put people in these important positions in media.
They become journalism majors or communication majors, and they never take an economics course. And I think that it's critical. Almost every story has something to do with economics.
Can we really do something about this kind of media bias? I believe we can. Not overnight, and not without a major commitment from Americans who share my frustration with the outrageous media bias we have today. With the help of some colleagues and friends of mine, we're here to tell you about a huge part of the solution, the Institute on Political Journalism, right here in Washington, D.C. The Institute on Political Journalism, or IPJ as we call it, is a journalism program for undergraduates offering fully accredited courses at Georgetown University. The journalism program is truly unlike any other in the country.
The fund is unique because we are running programs that last for a semester or a summer. And unlike other programs that sometimes just bring a student through a weekend seminar or a week-long seminar, I think what is really important to have them for that full semester, for the summer.
I think it's fantastic. They expose them to really great economists, to people who are already in news media who are doing very, very well. They expose them to political scientists. They let them see the inside of Washington by taking them to the White House, to Congress. I think that is very, very important for young people starting out on their careers.
Students will come to a program and they have a vague idea about what makes America work. We bring them to our programs at Georgetown for 8 weeks during the summer, and in that 8 weeks, we get through to them an understanding as to what makes America work and what is going to be required of them in terms of civic responsibility to participate in that in their professional lives and in their personal lives.
The way that my fund experience has affected me is probably the way that it's affected so many of the hundreds of students, thousands of students who have come through the fund's various programs. You learn a lot, you experience a lot, you get to meet interesting people and exchange ideas with them. And in that sense, it has to be one of the most stimulating intellectual experiences anyone can ever have.
The Institute on Political Journalism is an outstanding program that was developed in 1985. And what we do is we bring top journalism students from colleges and universities around the country, from journalism schools that unfortunately are often dominated by liberal professors, and we bring them to Washington for 8 weeks where they can be immersed in important ideas, economics, ethics, American ideas. The students can absorb these ideas in the classroom, and they can have an opportunity for an internship.
After spending 40+ hours a week at our internships, we all file back into classrooms every evening, but that perhaps could be the most incredible part of the summer. It's supplemental to our internships in the sense that we learn more about how DC and how politics really works. We learn about economics, we learn about the American political system, and those courses definitely kept us up every night, but enhanced the summer by ways we couldn't even imagine.
I had the opportunity to work and do jobs that weren't just created for an intern. They were jobs that needed to be done that helped to promulgate the goals of the organization.
I was able to attend lectures at the Capitol with Colin Powell and Chief Justice Roberts, and each of them had the same message, which really put something into me. They told us that no matter what we do, our generation needs to make the difference, and that we need to get involved with public service somehow.
I go to a very liberal school in New York, and as a conservative, I felt that it was great to be able to come here and to be in classes where I get to learn with more of a focus on business and on free markets, more pro-free market.
I came to this program ideologically very, very, very liberal. And I think that one of the most impressive things about it, to my mind, to my eye, is that it's really kind of articulated the conservative viewpoint on the world very, very well.
I had never had an economics class until this summer, and I think it's really important because now I know things about economics that I can use in the future.
One of the great things about being in an ethics class in this program was we got to learn from important principles from philosophers such as Aristotle and John Stuart Mill about why it is that there is a bias and how we can stop it. And I think from learning from these philosophers, we were able to think about what's wrong in coming from a bias when you're writing about the news and how we can try to stop that.
I believe there's only one way to really do something to end the liberal domination of our media. We must make sure more conservatives enter the field of journalism. The goal is not to create a conservative media bias, but to create a balanced and fair media with ethical reporters. This is the thinking behind the Fund for American Studies and its Institute on Political Journalism. I believe this program is a real solution to a problem that is bad and still getting worse: liberal domination of our major media. Although IPJ has done tremendous work so far, just imagine what could happen if IPJ could train twice the number of students. The Institute on Political Journalism is a proven program. No other program is like it. Its unique emphasis on instruction in basic economics, the importance of ethics, and real-world experience is a powerful combination, and Institute graduates are making a difference.
I've often considered the Fund for American Studies in a sense a farm team because we're developing the talent that will be the leadership of the future, not only in the conservative movement, but in the country and through our overseas programs around the world. Our young people have gone in to work in virtually every conservative organization in Washington, major think tanks, public policy groups. They work at the grassroots level in their communities through state think tanks. So we are really making a difference. Our journalism graduates are in major media, but they're also in communities, in the local papers, the affiliates, touching millions of lives of Americans through the work they do.
When you go to Charlottesville, Virginia right now, as you're coming into town, there's a billboard. And that billboard has one of our alumni on it because she's one of the features on the evening news today. And what is she doing? She is giving the news to the people in Charlottesville in as unbiased a way as she possibly can.
I am a reporter at CBS 19 News in Charlottesville, Virginia. The program I was in was the Institute on Political Journalism. I did that back in 2002, and I'm actually a second generation. My dad was in the program when it first started, and that's how I heard about it. It didn't spark my decision, but it definitely cemented it. It was something I was interested in to begin with. I had switched my major, but I really didn't know a lot about it. I wasn't sure this is the career for me. But after doing this, and especially the internship that they set me up with, I would absolutely recommend the Institute on Political Journalism to anyone that's even considering getting into this field. Because you know what? You really do get to experience what it's like. Everything from this internship to the classes to learn about it. But you really get to decide. And you know what? If you don't like it, you figure that out right away. But if you do like it, you really do learn a lot and you really do enjoy doing it.
If we can double the size of our program, if we can start a fall and spring semester component, and instead of 90 students bring 180 or 200 students through our program every year, it will have such a magnifying effect, exponentially greater effect on our country.
In the Wall Street Journal Washington office, I would say there's 30 reporters there, and I would say maybe 2 of them are conservatives, and a few of them are moderates, and the rest are liberals. Well, if you could put 2 more conservatives in the newsroom at the Wall Street Journal in Washington, you know what? You've just doubled the number.
Conservatives need to think about becoming good journalists. What the major media need is what conservatives should be supplying, and that's honest, well-trained journalism that's so good that it can't be denied entry into the mainstream media.
I think that the solution, the ultimate solution to liberal media bias is the truth. I think that the truth, as someone said, will set you free. And I think that if we spend more resources in getting the truth out, that will be the ultimate solution.
I suspect you are one of those Americans who agree with me that it's much better to do something about a problem instead of just talking about it. And as in most matters of importance, timing can be critical. Frankly, that's where you come in. I'm hoping you can become a serious financial partner in this program. I'm hoping you can help the Fund for American Studies reach their budget goals to get classes started in the fall of 2007. I hope you will make the decision to get involved right away. By acting swiftly, your gift can have a maximum impact because of a generous matching gift challenge that is now in effect. Among conservative causes, nothing is more important than the Institute on Political Journalism. It's our best bet to give conservatives and fair-minded young journalists the opportunity to compete head-to-head. No one else is doing this work, and nothing is more important to the future of our country. I hope after seeing this video, you feel the same way. Thank you.